Dan Radio Style, hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. I gotta say, it used to be Law and the Promise was my favorite book. I am starting to lean toward, this book has been amazing. The Power of Awareness. We're on chapter 10. This one's called Creation. There's still more chapters coming, but there's amazing stuff in this particular chapter. We're gonna go through it, of course, but I wanted to preface a little bit. One, I think it's got one of the biggest keys into why a lot of us succeed and or fail, and why sometimes I think things slow down a lot. There's a really strong part in here. Also, the concept of time. How long is this going to take is also discussed in here. And I've got a cool little analogy, and from a lot of the stuff I've read, and Goddard's read from some of the same wonderful sources I've gotten. And time is really kind of different than a lot of us understand it. So we're going to talk about that too. And hopefully that kind of helps wrap our heads around this whole concept of manifestation, where some of our doubts come from, where some of our questions about how long and when and why and all these things, and also helps us understand one other really key fact, and this one I'm going to tease you up front. I think one thing that a lot of us do that's actually a mistake in law of attraction is we look at it like we're creating something, like we're making something out of thin air, like it's going to just pop into our life, and now we've got it. And now it's here. And before it wasn't, but now it is. And that's not true. It is already here. It's already there now. It's when we experience it. It's when the event in us combine, when we come together. The event, meaning the time and space and place, and us, when we're ready, when we've consciously gotten ourselves to the right place. Then that is the moment when we collide with what already exists, not something new. We're not creating anything. It's already there. Now, I know that sounds crazy, so I'm going to let Goddard kind of fill in some of the blanks because he does it so well, and then I'll hopefully make use of that to try to prove my point. Creation is finished. Pretty strong start, right? 3 words. Creation is finished. Creativeness is only a deeper receptiveness for the entire contents of all time and all space, while experienced in a time sequence, actually coexist in an infinite and eternal now. Huh? I know. Creation is finished. It's only a deeper receptiveness for the entire contents of all time and all space. Receptiveness. We're receiving what's already been out there for all time and all space, while experienced in a time sequence, which means we're experiencing everything right now. It's all experience, it's all the reality, but we're walking through it in time sequences, in moments, if you will. That's what I like to call it, as moments. We live moment to moment to moment to moment. And moments are where things happen, right? You're in a moment right now. It's not really right now always, right? Sometimes you're in a moment. Sometimes you're at your friend's house and you've been hanging out, or maybe you're driving your car. Like, you're in moments. You're moving through things. You're going from one section to the next, and then you're kind of into a new adventure for a few micro moments. So we experience everything in a time sequence just because that's how experience works. Experience is like having something occur over a moment, over a span of time. It's just like it's like velocity, right? Velocity is forward momentum or speed divided by time, right? How far are you going by a rate of time? That's speed. So similar kind of concept. So in other words, because Goddard's kind enough to restate it in his words, which sometimes is not any easier. In other words, all that you have ever been or ever will be, in fact, all that mankind ever was or ever will be, exists now, right now, this very second. This is what is meant by creation. And the statement that creation is finished means nothing is ever to be created. It is only to be manifested. What is called creativeness is only becoming aware of what already is. You simply become aware of increasing portions of that which that which already exists. We allow it. It's already there. We're just merging with it. We're coming to tunes with it. It's like a manual stick shift. You put in the clutch and you get it into gear, and then you slowly let out the clutch and you mesh it together. You get these two worlds to start spinning at the same speed, right? You get us all together. So you're simply becoming aware of the increasing portions of that which already exists. Another thing that I've talked about that's very similar frequently is it's almost like putting on different lenses, right? And I've talked about colored lenses just to make it more simple, but you put on maybe a yellow lens. And when you put on a yellow lens, everything of course has a yellow hue to it, but now all of a sudden you're only seeing yellow stuff. You're missing all these other things because that's the filter you have on. That's what you're seeing. That's what you're tuned into. You can always switch that filter, maybe put on a purple filter or a black light filter or a whatever filter and experience life through that lens. It's essentially what we do when we manifest. We're not creating anything. It's already there. We're merging with it. We're becoming one with what already is. We are allowing it to express itself in our lives, in a time sequence, within our moment, within our now. We're bringing that towards us. So the fact that you can never be anything that you are not already, or experience anything not already existing, explains the experience of having an acute feeling of having heard before what is being said, right? Sometimes you're like, I swear I've heard that before, like deja vu, right? Or having met before, the person being met for the first time, bump into somebody and you're like, I feel like I've known you my whole life. Like, what are we, soulmates? Are we kismet? What is kinsmet? Whatever, right? What's going on? Or having seen before a place or thing seen for the first time. Like maybe you go to the Grand Canyon, you're like, oh my God, this is exactly like how I imagined it. That's happened to many people. They've gone to crazy places they've never seen before, and it's exactly how they imagined it. How? How is that? It's almost like they've been there before, but they couldn't have because time doesn't allow that, because that's the future. Well, Goddard's actually getting into one of the deeper paradoxes about, really, space-time that exists. That time is kind of a little funky. So the whole of creation exists in you. And it is your destiny to become increasingly aware of its infinite wonders and to experience ever greater and grander portions of it. It's up for us to understand how amazing we are. And in that process of understanding how amazing we are as souls, as beings, as creatures, we start to expand ourselves. It's the whole concept of self-love. When you love yourself, when you truly love yourself, and you realize, my gosh, I deserve so much better than this, you actually expand yourself to allow better than that. When before you might have been like, this is all I can have. There's nothing else out there. And then eventually you come back and you're maybe sad and you're licking your wounds. You're like, life sucks, right? And you're licking your wounds and all of a sudden you notice that, well, hey, this isn't right. He doesn't want to be with me. Why should I care? That's not right. I deserve better than this. My goodness. And bam, you lighten up, you expand, and you go into this new world where this other person is that's going to knock your socks off, by the way. And you're going to meet that person, and they're going to change your whole life, and you're going to forget about, well, you won't never forget, but it will, like, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm just so glad this happened. My life has changed in such magnificent ways. It's very powerful when we allow ourselves to expand and to get into these larger areas of life. And it is these experiences, these feelings, these desires that lead us there. It's how we find this larger part of ourselves. It's how we expand ourselves, is through the desire of having more, of being different, of having a unique person, or whatever your thing is that you're trying to, it's that pursuing of a larger concept of ourselves. If creation is finished and all events are taking place now, the question that springs naturally to the mind is, what determines your time track? Huh? Is he asking that question? No. That is, what determines the events which you encounter? And the answer is your concept of yourself. Concepts determine the route that attention follows. Let's stop this 1 second because this is very exciting. The answer is the concept of yourself. And concepts determine the route that attention follows. What happens when you think of things? He's going to get into this more, but I want to preface it now. I want you going into it with this. When you're thinking of things, when you imagine things, it creates a route, not just a path from you to them. Because remember, it's not in some, it's already here. It's already around you. So you're not necessarily creating a path per se, but you're creating a thought route. You're creating a manifestation route. You're creating things that will start to happen, things that will need to unfold, things that will begin to become larger. Example, want to be with a specific person, but we've never been out on a date. Okay? For that to happen, conversation needs to occur between you two. Need to reach some point where you both agree that going out's a great idea. And then you need to go out on that first date. Now, of course, we are wanting more than that to happen. So that first date actually needs to go well. And you need to have a good time, good conversation, good whatever. A lot of things in common, similar spiritual values, whatever your case is. But there's more to it than just going on a date with somebody. There's a root. There's things that need to happen. There's actions that you will take. There's actions that they will take. There's things that will unfold as events in your life before the main event. You're going to have a route. There'll be a plan. There'll be a way for you to hopscotch from here to here to here to here to here, then to them. And so many of us kind of fail on this part. And he's going to explain how we fail. But this is, I think, key. This route is key. And this is where many of us succeed or fail. Does your route lead to where you're going? Or have you come up with a route that leads elsewhere? So what determines the events which you encounter? And the answer is your concept of yourself. Concepts determine the route that attention follows. Here's a good test for you to prove this fact. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and observe the route that your attention follows. You will observe that as long as you remain faithful to your assumption, so long will your attention be confronted with images clearly related to that assumption. That's the root. So long as you keep this assumption in your mind, different things might pop into your head. Different ideas, different things you may have to learn, different places you may have to go, different scenes that you might have with this specific person, different interview questions that could be asked if you're interviewing for a job. You're going to see certain little things pop into your head. These are the root. These are different things that you're going to probably walk through, or at least something close to that. And it's part of that process that builds that bridge to the event that's going to open up this manifestation. This is the blueprints almost, or it's the map. It's your Google map that's saying go this way, then make a left, then go around that building, then go up the ladder, then go across that way, right? Like it's the route that you're going to take. So long will your assumption. So long will your assumption be confronted with images clearly related to the assumption. So again, as you keep thinking about it, it's going to keep happening. For example, if you assume that you have a wonderful business, you will notice how in your imagination, your attention is focused on incident after incident relating to that assumption. Friends congratulate you, tell you how lucky you are. Others are envious and critical. From there, your attention goes to larger offices, bigger bank balances, and many other similar related events. You're thinking about making your business better, then the natural thoughts, natural progression take you down that path, as he was just describing. If you're wanting to be with a specific person, let your natural thoughts take you down the path where you can be together, the different things that will happen, the different things that need to happen, the different places that will come together. Now, where we fail is if we find places, maybe a blockage or a third party or some fear that kicks in because of self-love or whatever. And now all of a sudden I start focusing on that. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe they haven't forgiven me. Maybe that person's smarter than me that's interviewing for the job. And so we start thinking about that. And when we do that, we begin to create a route to that. We create a route to that path. We're putting energy on something we don't want. We're thinking about it, but now we're actually creating a route to it. And in a lot of cases, especially when we're thinking about something that we don't like, third party, that frustrates us, that hurts us, or hurts our feelings, makes us want to cry. Someone smarter than us makes us feel intimidated, makes me feel insecure, makes me feel, right? You get a feeling that goes with these bad assumptions. And that's all these are. Goddard's talking about assumptions. These are assumptions. They're smarter than me. He's cuter than me. They won't forgive me. Whatever. And I'm not saying this is what you're doing. I'm not saying. But I'm saying this is where a lot of people go off the rails. Because they get stuck on their fear. They get stuck on that thing that they need an affirmation to fix. They get stuck on the parts of ourselves that are scared, that don't believe in any of this. Now, we've talked and other shows, and I'll do another one at some point about how we can enhance our beliefs, going back to law of attraction for beginners. Like, there's a lot of things, but ultimately it's an issue of, I think a lot of us might be more at the place where we're doubting, can I have this person? Can I have this manifestation? Can this happen? If you can see it clearly in your mind, it's real. If you can see it clearly in your mind, there's already a root. Hold it. Think about it. See how you feel about it. But not just that. See what accompanying thoughts happen with it. What's part of that root? What are some of the things that are going to happen? What are some of the neat little areas that you need to be aware of, or maybe you need to act? Maybe inspired action is going to come into play because as you were doing it, you saw, yeah, I can see this where I'm like picking them up I'm meeting them at the park or something. That would be really cool. And so at some point, they might go, hey, I'm going to be hanging out with some family at the park. Do you want to maybe stop by and say howdy? Maybe, have a slice of cake. It's my niece's birthday. And you'll be like, park? Yes, absolutely. Inspired action. Let the scenes play out. See what comes from it. Goddard was beautiful on this. So you see friends congratulating you, right? Your bigger bank balances, all this stuff starting to come together. And what he says is, persistence in this assumption will result in actually experiencing, in fact, that which you assumed. Persistence. It's just persistence in the assumption. Even if you doubt it for a second, that's just my fears popping up. That's just insecurity. I need to do more self-love. Of course I'm good enough. Of course she's going to like me. Duh. Of course I'm smart enough. Of course I can get this job. I'm qualified. I've been doing this work 3 years longer than this guy. Whatever. Right? Whatever your thing is, hold that. Persistence in your assumption will create the outcome. I've talked before about it. People have asked me a lot of questions. One of my biggest things that I've manifested that I'm super proud of was my radio thing, right? Became a DJ. A bunch of people said you can't do this, whatever. I moved to a whole other state, started completely over, gave up everything I had, and did it. And guess what? I accomplished it. You know why? Not because I listened to people. No. In fact, I would have given up long ago if that would have been the case. No, it was because I was persistent. I'm like, I don't care. I'm doing this. It didn't matter. I don't care what someone else is saying. Persistence is, I don't care what the outer circumstances are showing me. I know I'm changing that. I don't care. That's fine. Persistence. You know this works. You know your thoughts create your reality. You know your feelings manifest outward. Everything already exists. All you got to do is persist and certainly not entertain crazy assumptions. I think these are the two key takeaways that I had mentioned. And then he really finishes off with, the same is true regarding any concept. If your concept of yourself is that you are a failure, you would encounter in your imagination a whole series of incidents in conformance to that concept. Thus, it is clearly seen how you, by your concept of yourself, determine your present, that is, the particular portion of creation which you now experience, and your future, that is, the particular portion of creation which you will experience. It's the only difference. You're experiencing something right now. You will experience something tomorrow. What you're thinking and focusing on now, what you're persisting on now, what you're assuming now is what you're creating for tomorrow. Now, the last part of this that I really wanted to cover was time. One of the key things that so many of us think about when we think of time is that it's this way, right? There's Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday. It's horizontal. Tuesday's after Monday. Tuesday's tomorrow. Tuesday's ahead in the timeline. But really, what it is time is vertical. It's all already happened. And how it works is I step through it in increments of moments. So yeah, it happens to be the moment of Monday, and I'm momenting through it, but all of this has already happened. It's already there. Theoretically, I could jump to different parts in the timeline, but we're experiencing it in a moment-by-moment basis. So the fact that everything has happened already means that at any place you really can jump moments. You don't have to have A, then B, then C. No, you actually, B is unimportant and it's not related to what you're manifesting. So you theoretically could go from A to C. Don't worry about it. Hold on to where you're going. Hold on to the thing you're creating, and your path will get there. Your time will open up. Your moments will appropriate themselves so that you're able to create this as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible for you, maybe as quickly as possible for anyone else. You're trying to get a job. Good example of this one time when I had a situation occur at a job and I was pretty frustrated and I said, you know what, screw it. Finally threw my hands up and said I'm ready to move on. And I literally had a lady that had been bugging me about coming and working for her for a while. Called her up. I'm like, so you still needing people? And she's like, oh, no, I'm not right now. But the second I do, I'll let you know. And I'm like, totally cool. I was fine with that. Frankly, I was like, that's cool. I mean, I don't need to leave my job. I'm just not overly happy, and I think it's time for me to go. Literally 2 days later, she's like, you'll never believe this. I'm like, what? She goes, I just had a dude put in his notice today. You still interested? I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Literally had an interview 2 days later after that. Got what I asked for. They tried to talk me down. So everything worked out beautifully. So again, it's one of those things where time doesn't have to happen as sequentially as so many of us think. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is my proof, if you will. And I think this is something that all of us have experienced. And this is the part of it that I think does really illustrate how time works. How many of you have ever had a grueling hour? Something horrible you had to do, something horrible you were waiting for, and it was an hour before or an hour while it was happening, and it was the longest freaking hour of your life. It felt like a day. And how many of you have been doing something super fun, something you love doing, being super focused into something, maybe you're working in something you really like, coding or your art, right? You're just focused. And you look at your clock and you're like, holy crap, 4 hours has flown by. I was wondering why it was dark outside. How many times have you completely lost track of time? That there was absolutely no understanding of time passing. What would feel like an eternity if you were waiting in line at the DMV oddly feels like that when I'm focused on something I enjoy, when I'm doing something that is, whatever, it's keeping my focus. And the same can happen with this thing this event, essentially, that you're going to sync up with. It will happen in the sense that it's not happening right now. And a lot of people get hung up on words, and you can use whatever words you want, but ultimately, if it's not happening right now, whatever mind games you want to tell yourself, it can happen like in 5 seconds. It could happen in 5 minutes. It could happen in 20 minutes. Could happen an hour, a day, a week, whatever. That's for us to hold the thought of what we're manifesting, know that creation is already complete, know that I can see it clearly in my mind, so this is bringing me and it together. This is going to sync us up. At that point, I've done everything I need to. This is great. I'm on my way. And this is where, people have asked, do you let go? Do you not let go? Hey, whatever feels best. Do you need to keep asking? No. Do you need to keep imagining? No. Goddard said that frequently, but he's also said frequently that you can keep imagining as the wish fulfilled, living in the end. You can do all this crap. What do you want to do? If you want to think about it, think about it. Spend the time with it. If you're doing it because you think it'll speed you up, I've said before, that's usually kind of a bad angle to come at it from. Do it because it makes you feel better. Do it because you gain some benefit from it, puts you in a good mood, makes you start the day off right, whatever. All that stuff's good. But if you're doubting yourself frequently, and then you're doing techniques often to try to make up for the doubt, well, that's a whole different problem. And again, that's like having a wound that's nasty and needs to be cleaned and just slapping a Band-Aid on it day after day. That's what affirmations can be if you've actually got something that needs to be handled, dealt with, self-love, whatever. So allow yourself to get to the thing that's already created. It's already there. You're just manifesting syncing with it. You're manifesting putting on the right lens so you suddenly see it right in front of you. It's an issue of expanding yourself, becoming basically what it is that you are trying to manifest, because it is you, it's all around you. It's already happened. And when we can get ourselves at that place, when we can understand that stuff, things, people are extensions of our energy, when we really start to see that life presents us what we are asking for and what we're sending out to, and when we appreciate what's happening around us as steps towards it. I mean, one thing I've seen happen a lot is someone's trying to manifest maybe a specific situation with someone, and then some weird thing over here happens, but that can directly tie into this person. It's like might be 5 steps before it. It's kind of like chess. Sometimes you've got to be like, well, yeah, because she's the problem. They're sort of dating, but right? Anyway, I could make up some crazy idea. But the fact is sometimes things show up that may look funny on the outside, but are probably taking us exactly where we wanted to go. So don't panic so much at what it is sometimes. Understand that if you're manifesting change in your life and suddenly change happens, you're on the right track. If change shows up that's a little strange, but change is what you know is coming, then don't freak out. Know that this is part of your manifestation, and know that on the other side of this change is exactly what you want and need. This is one of those events that's meant to sink you. Allow things to happen. So many of us fight it. So many of us say it's got to be like this. No, let it happen. It's a dance. It's poetry. And it will amaze you when you stand back and actually let your manifestation unfold. It will amaze you how it plays out. Dan, Radio Style.